Hi everybody, second video for standard form is thinking about calculating within standard form. We're going to look at multiplying and dividing first, and then we're going to look at adding and subtracting afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go through 4 examples. If you could please make sure you are copying down these examples, including working out, and then I'm going to ask you to have a go at some questions of your own. Okay, so first one. When I'm multiplying or dividing within standard form, I want to think about 2 things separately. The first thing I want to think about is what happens when I multiply or divide the numbers. And the second thing that I want to think about is what happens when I multiply or divide the powers of 10, and I'm going to treat them together. Okay, so I'm going to look at the numbers first of all. If I was to do 3 multiplied by 4, I would get 12. And if I was to do 10 to the power of 4 multiplied by 10 to the power of 3, I would get 10 to the power of 7. Okay, so next thing I need to check is my number in standard form? If, as you can see here, the 12 is not yet in standard form because my number needs to be between 1 and 10. So this is where I again think about putting this number into standard form. I'm going to pick the digits 1.2, and it's going to be times 10 to the power of 1. That 1.2 times 10 to the power of 1 comes from, my decimal point is here, I want it to be here, it's moved once, and it is a number that is larger than 10. I've still got 10 to the power of 7. If I put these 2 things together, I end up with 1.2 times 10 to the power of 8. Okay, second example, I'll leave that first one up there so you can follow it as well. I'm going to look at my numbers. First of all, 6 times 5 is 30. Okay, and then second thing I look at is my powers of 10. This time I've got 10 to the power of 7 times by 10 to the power of negative 2. That gives me 10 to the power of 5. 7 add negative 2 gives me 5. I need to check, is it in standard form? This number is not yet in standard form. So 30 becomes 3.0, or just 3, times 10 to the power of 1. So these things are all equivalent. I've got times 10 to the power of 5 still. Overall that gives me 3 times 10 to the power of 6. 10 to the power of 1 times 10 to the power of 5 gives me 10 to the power of 6. I'm going to do 2 examples where I'm dividing before I ask you to have a go. First one, I've got 2 and I'm dividing it by 4. 2 divided by 4 is the same as a half, but I want to write it as a decimal, so I'm going to write 0.5. So 2 divided by 4 is 0.5. I've now got 10 to the power of 7 divided by 10 to the power of negative 2, and I know when I divide powers, I subtract the numbers. So I've got negative 7, I'll write this at the side, negative 7 subtract negative 2. Negative 7 subtract negative 2 is the same as negative 7 add 2. So it's times 10 to the power of negative 5. So this divided by this gives me 10 to the power of negative 5. Okay, I need to check, is it in standard form? Well, if it was in standard form, the number would be between 1 and 10, which it's not. So I now need to put this number into standard form. I'm going to make that 5 times 10 to the power of, well, I want my decimal point here, but it's here, it's negative 1. So I've got 5 times 10 to the power of negative 1, which is the same as this. Now I need to correct it. I've got 5 times, well, I've got negative 1, add negative 5 here, which is negative 6. 5 times 10 to the power of negative 6. Okay, second example on the right hand side of dividing. First thing I need to think about is what happens if I do 3 divided by 5. 3/5 is the same as 0.6. I've then got 10 to the power of 3 divided by 10 to the power of negative 5. Again, I'll write that out. 3 subtract negative 5. If I'm dividing powers, I subtract the numbers. 3 subtract negative 5 is positive 8. 0.6 times 10 to the power of 8. Okay, I need to check, is it in standard form? If it is, I can stop. This is not in standard form just yet. I need to change it to be 6 times 10 to the power of negative 1. Still got that 10 times 10 to the power of 8 there. That's the same as the thing above. So overall I have 6 times 10 to the power of 7. Negative 1 add 8 is 7. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes to have a go at the 5 questions that you can see there. I'll also show you the stretch questions at the bottom. Just move it across a little bit. This one says find the area. Okay, pause the video and have a go at those questions. Okay, a few more seconds and then I'm going to put the answers up. So if you haven't yet finished the answers, please can you ensure that you've still got the video paused. Okay, so you can see on the right hand side of the screen there the working out first of all. So I did 4 times 12, which is 48, times 10 to the power of 8, and then I corrected it in standard form, so that is 4.8 times 10 to the power of 9. Second one, same again, working out and answer. Third one, working out and answer. This one, when I did my working out, 1.5 is already between 1 and 10, so it didn't need to be corrected. Question 5, 2 different ways you could do it. We already know from indices that if I've got a 3 power on the outside, it means cube everything inside. So I did 6 cubed, and then I did 10 to the power of 5 cubed, which gave me 10 to the power of 15, and then I put it into standard form. Alternatively, another way you can think about it, if you aren't confident just jumping straight to that, if you write it all out in full, 6 times 6 times 6 gives you 216, and then 10 to the power of 5 times 10 to the power of 5 times 10 to the power of 5 gives you 10 to the power of 15. Okay, the stretch question, I'll give you a few seconds if you want to re-pause the video and have a go at those, and then I'll put the answers up. Okay, so you can see here my working for the first question to find the area of a triangle. I know it's half base times height, so I did half of the base multiplied by the height, which you can see here. Calculate it using standard form, so 4 times 2 is 8, and 10 times 6, 10 to the power of 6 times 10 to the power of 6 is 10 to the power of 12. And I need to half it, which is 4 times 10 to the power of 12. You don't halve the power of the 10, just the number part. Second question. Okay, so I've got something in standard form, and it says estimate the number of atoms in a kilogram of uranium. I can see that this one is in grams, so the first thing I want to do is convert this into grams. 1 kilogram is 1,000 grams, so it's 1 times 10 to the power of 3 grams. Next keyword I see is the word estimate. If I want to estimate something, I round it to one significant figure. So the 2.4 is the number that's not got one significant figure. So I need to change that 2.4 to 2. I'm going to leave the 10 and the power of 10, no matter what it is alone. It's just the number part that I need to round to one significant figure. Okay, it says how many atoms fit in 1 kilogram of uranium. So I need to see how many of this number fit into this number. So I'm going to do this divided by this. Here you can see I do 1 divided by 2, which is 0.5. 10 to the power of 3 divided by 10 to the power of negative 20, which gives me 10 to the power of 23 using my subtraction rule. And then I correct it by putting it back into standard form. Okay, the other type of calculation that you need to be able to do in standard form is think about addition and subtraction. This, unlike multiplication and division, doesn't have a nice little shortcut that you can do. If you're on a calculator paper, obviously use your calculator. If not, then you have to work it out by hand. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work out what those numbers are by taking them out of standard form. So my first number, this one here, is going to be 30,000, and this one is going to be 5 million. Okay, so the first one is 30,000, second one is 5 million. I put them together. And I put it back in standard form. And that's my answer. Same thing for the subtraction questions. I take it out of standard form. I take this one out of standard form. And then I subtract them. 2 million take away 800,000 is, which is 1.2 times 10 to the power of 6. Okay, same thing with negative powers. I take it out of standard form first. 5 times 10 to the power of negative 2 is 0.05. I need to subtract 3 times 10 to the power of negative 1, which is going to be 0.3. That's going to give me negative 0.25. Okay, putting that back into standard form, that is negative 2.5 times 10 to the power of negative 1. Okay, here are some questions for you to have a go at. Final thing for this video. 3 questions. Please pause the video and have a go, and then we'll mark them shortly. Okay, and if you can mark your final answers, please make sure they are in standard form. That is the end of the second video.